Alright guys, I just thought I'd do another quick video. It's getting on in the evening here. Let you have a look out the window. It's looking quite nice out there. Some darkish clouds, were quite stormy here earlier. But one of the things to recognise is you've got to get back up all the time. Life isn't easy. Don't assume somebody's life's better or worse than others. What a lot of it is often they get up easy, get up again, and they get up again, and they get up again. Every time you take a knock, get up. The quicker you get up, the better. A couple of funny things for myself recently. They're not major things, but just an example that not everything always goes right. It's a bit like I put my car in for this MOT, which in Spain is the ITV, the roadworthiness test. Went through with no issues. Then I come out, I'd budgeted expecting about £200, £300 because the first time I've spent any money on the car since I bought it. Come out, went into a pothole and it's twisted the front wheel on the driver's side. So I need to get another new wheel when I get back. Swapped the spare over, going, okay, I'm not going to get frustrated with it. It destroyed the tyre. Destroyed the rim. Car's fine. It's already got its roadworthiness. I'll just renew the insurance, then I'll sort another wheel out because I hardly use it anyway. So I justify the fact that life's a balancing act. Often is about getting back up. It's not about expecting everything to go your way all the time because it often won't. Today's another example. So I'm sorting out a solar water heater for the hot tub downstairs, and I got ripped off with this pump off Amazon. I did write a crappy review about it because, to be fair, I get a bit tired of Amazon, so I've already cancelled my UK Amazon account, and I think the Spanish one ain't going to be far off it either. It's just the access to stuff's a bit harder in Spain. But the pump was about this size. And it was priced about the same as you would normally get for a big sump pump, so really annoyed with it. And I was like, okay, went out, got a sump pump today for cheaper than I paid for this little misadvertised crap from Amazon. So you go, okay, I've sorted it out, don't worry about it. Because part of that was I just wrote a crappy review going, don't buy these products, it's cheap Chinese rubbish. Blah blah blah. That's it. Move on. While we're out getting the sump pump, I don't even know. There's normally a umbrella sat here, but I'd opened it up earlier, so the umbrella was here. It's now currently gone over the roof and behind this wall on the neighbour's balcony because the wind's caught it and carried it over. So you just got to go. Completely out of my control. No point whining about it, complaining about it. Just gonna work. I'm gonna get it because she's not here for another 2 or 3 months. And like today's weather, it's a bit stormy. I can see it's clearing up here, but I can hear the thunder on this side, which means the storm's gonna come across again. But the whole point is you've just got to get back up. There's always going to be a reason not to do stuff. The hard bit is actually getting motivated to do stuff. So the key to it is you've got to learn to let that stuff just go over your head and not worry about it. Don't care. It's a bit like you've been fired or whatever, redundant or whatever. It's becoming more common to be made redundant, especially with automation and streamlining corporations, because like I've mentioned before, a lot of the problems are the corporations don't function very well. They're often mismanaged these days. I couldn't tell you before how badly managed they were, but I assume the whole yes person culture, and that's been there for a long time, which means they just follow a path. And I was saying to my wife this morning, because it was a lot of these companies, I think if you actually took the CEO out for 6 months, you'd probably find the businesses would still function without even noticing, because people will follow what they know. They often are not thinkers, and they're often promoted because they're not thinkers. I'm not saying the entire education system's built that way, but it does seem, don't question, just listen, seems to be what we're based on in the education system. I think, what's his name, covered this, Jordan Peterson covered it. Funny enough, my son had exactly the same, because he was doing algebra, and one of his classmates said to the teacher, "Why are we doing algebra?" And the teacher said, "For the exam." Well, that's all right then, that makes sense, just for the exam. Because reality is, a lot of this is not contextual, it's not explained why you're doing something and what the opportunities of life are connected through going through the motions of thought, or the fact that algebra, the way it's set out, is very, I find, for me, it's not logical. Because I do algebra without thinking about an algebra, because it's not X, Y, Z, whatever. It's, let's just say, square meterage, or over, or you're doing it based on height, width, you're trying to work out dimension or something else. It's got a context to it, which makes it much easier to understand. And if you explain to people that if you work in building, you want to be an air conditioning engineer, you need to size up the size of the room, it tells you how much the air conditioning unit. There's a whole ream of stuff that sits on the back of why you're doing something as a child. Now, as a child, you may go, I ain't got to do air conditioning. But you've got to go through the motions of understanding, okay, maybe you're not going to be an air conditioning engineer. What do you want to do? It's a bit like reading and writing, going over and over again to improve your handwriting, which many doctors never mastered. But the point being is, it's about being able to understand things better. I mean, when I was a kid, you couldn't use a calculator in an exam, but they even have open book exams, which have all the information in front of you. I mean, let's face it, even that makes sense in some ways, because when I read contracts, I read it with 2 pens. The 2 pens are very simple. One highlighter is to my benefit, and one highlighter is to the client's benefit, and you go through and mark everything up through the contract. So when you're preparing for an exam, very similar. Take the key notes out of it. But the point is, that's a learning skill. I don't think they even cover that bit, and that's an important one. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. So the point being is, you've got to get back up. You've got to get back up. It's like today, like I say, it's a bit overcast, bit naff. Went out and got what I wanted with a pump, the second pump, because the other one's now a water fountain in the garden, the cheap one. Well, sorry, overpriced but cheap quality. Is now a water fountain because I can't be bothered to send it back to Amazon. And we're just going through the motions now of, right, what else we've got to do today. So sat and spent a bit of time with the family. Son's busy revising now for an exam, funny enough. And I'm like, I've come upstairs to have a think, what can I do that's productive? So do I read a book? Do I go through some work emails, take some of the pressure off next week? Or do I start thinking about what to prepare for ebooks, doing other YouTube videos, reading into a bit more, as somebody mentioned earlier about e-commerce stuff. The fact is, you need to start motivating it, because although it seems to be moving slow, it's not moving that slow. As I say, I'm gaining cash-wise about £1,500 a month in spare income. That thing over there, the mortgage, keeps coming down. So the point is, I'm probably moving it probably £1,800 a month, which in the UK is some people's households' incomes. That's basically money being banked or money being paid off. the reality is that that's a reasonable sum, and that's before anything else starts working. So we're progressing. It's not as fast as I would like, but hey ho, I haven't got to the where I want, where I'm happy to go. That's it. Move forward with that. But it starts with when you're sitting watching TV. One of the things I do is I ask, why am I watching TV? There's other stuff to be doing. In Northampton, I find it much, much harder because up here, I've got this nice office. In Northampton, it's about the same size as my room. It's not the best place, and it's not the best area. It's not just, yeah. And I'm trying not to worry about thinking, oh, well, I'll move areas or whatever. No, the goal is to exit the country. So you've got to sit and think. You've got to sit and motivate yourself, get yourself back in the right frame of mind, or even start to get yourself in a frame of mind. I find if you're struggling to read, audiobooks are fantastic. Absorbing information is useful. It's multi-level, because it's not only you might learn something new, or something puts you off on a new streak for business or career path move, or teaching about investments. It's also about reinforcement as well, which is another thing. That's why the Simon Sinek books are simple in the sense of why things are obvious, because he puts it in a simple context. But it's a bit like, why do you get up in the morning? Why are you going to work? Why are you doing this? It's all related, because when you're in a business that, for example, a company that's a very negative, toxic environment, why are you there? Now, if you're just going, well, it's just for the money, well, it's normally more than that. It's normally more. It's to pay for the kids' education. It's to put pay for our holidays, pay for the get experience so you can move up the ladder, or finish a training course, but it's associated with the company you're working with, or wanting to progress to do something else, or you want to improve the culture in the business. Because a lot of the time, the focus becomes the negative, and this is where the big picture is, because most of the stuff you got out there will tell you not to do stuff. The TV tells you to switch it on. You come home, cold beer in the fridge, sore back from lifting boxes every day, or got a throbbing head from listening to crap all day. You're like, doesn't that look comfortable? Cold beer, flick the remote on, I'll just watch it for an hour. 4 hours later, falling asleep because you've been sat there all day, all evening, and you produce nothing. One thing you'll always have is time. Is how you're using time that's the important bit. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand the other side of this as well. When I'm going into London at 7 o'clock in the morning and going back to a hotel at 10 o'clock at night, I'm in a remote location. I don't have any of the stuff that I use, like my notepads and stuff, because I've got limited luggage space when I'm trailing everything around. I've still got my iPad. I'm still thinking about stuff. I'm still trying to work out the next move. In fact, it reinforces the fact I need to do something. So rather than seeing it as a negative, it's like, this is why you're doing this. This is why you want to make the changes. This is why you want to do something about it. And even if you spend 20 minutes a day doing it, you will get there. It's the, what do they call it? The 100 rule. You spend 100 hours a year, which I think is 28 minutes a day, on something, you will be better than 98% of the population of the world. Which, like I say, play piano. Most people would love to play the piano, but couldn't play a note. So your 28 minutes a day, you can see why you can progress. Because most people don't even try. Doesn't mean you'll be great, but it does mean you'll get an understanding. You could read music, or you can whack out some tunes because you've been practicing them every day for a year. But the point being is, it's that 28 minutes a day that makes a difference. So somebody just mentioned about getting motivated for health. This is part and parcel of that as well. If you started going for a walk every day, as soon as you get home, for example, or early in the morning, instead of getting up late or just coming in, switching the TV on or whatever, just go park the car or whatever. You know what? Gonna walk, do 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes, come back, and then go and do TV or whatever. Over a period of time, it's that small change that will have a significant difference. The other good thing about walking in the park or whatever, you find that it clears your mind, because I find even myself that the day-to-day is often fog. There's too much noise, especially with the work I do, because it overlaps into so many other things in the same business, because I deal with the accounts, I deal with the long-term replacements. At the moment I've got some big chillers being replaced, air handling units, entire air conditioning systems for buildings, and it ties in with ventilation, ties in with the air changes in the buildings, the power supplies, the building management system controls for the heating, the cooling, issues around boilers, the connectivity of pumps. There's a lot going on, and although my job says you look after the planned, the long-term stuff, the stuff you plan out over a year or 5 years or 25 years, you're often dragged into the day-to-day because there's knowledge gaps, there's a lot of failed equipment, there's a lot of problems. And although they're not my problems, they become them because I can get it fixed. So you end up with a lot of noise. Same with the accounts. There's a query on accounts this month. I'm like, that number's not right. It's way short of what we've actually done. So I end up dealing with that stuff. Then you got the office politics and all the other stuff. So the reason I'm bringing it up is I have as much noise as everybody else, and in some cases probably a lot more. Where I do have a little breathing space that some of you guys may not have is because I work remote sometimes. I'm away a few weeks of the month, which means I'm stuck in Northampton. And to be fair, I'd much rather be here in Spain with the kids in April and enjoying this. And now the office is built, I've actually got a working environment, where before it was the sofa, and then you get the kids come in and go, "Why don't I watch TV?" and you're trying to work. So yeah, we all have things that distract us, and we all have things that stop us. What you need to do is work out, how do I stop that happening? What do I do to change it? What can I make work? Because no one else is going to do it for you. The majority of people will never even get past I'm thinking about. Myself, I've done it multiple times. The Philippines is a good example where we did so many different business things over the time we were there. You think we had peso slot machine, internet, like an arcade machine, but it's got PC in there instead of an arcade game. Got an internet cafe, call centre, the Sari, which is a corner shop, apartment rentals. We had a piggery. What else have we had there? Trying to think now. There's a lot more than that. We sold mobile phone data, telephone load. Lots of different business, websites, selling products online, developing the blog, developing the YouTube stuff. A lot of information, a lot of stuff out there that we did in quite a condensed period of time compared to most people. But the thing is, out there, I recognise that micro businesses work better because you're better off having a spread of money. Just like when we had the earthquakes or whatever and power's down, you can't sell mobile phone load But bizarrely, people buy food and drinks from the corner store, and they still need a place to rent, so you rent out your apartments. That's the bigger picture. In the West, I call it sustainability. Well, even there it's sustainability. But the point being is, you don't need massive ideas. People often shoot too far ahead sometimes. What you find is like the crypto market stuff. The crypto market started with a $400 investment, which ended up probably about 150,000 euros in the end from that $400. I don't think that was a bad investment. That was in the space of a year, and at the same time, can do it again. I'm looking at the crypto markets now. Now things are starting to quieten down. It starts becoming more viable. And you look at some of the people that shoot ahead. They diversify. They're not in one industry. But like I says, don't expect to become a millionaire straight away. Don't expect to. I'd say don't even expect to be a millionaire, because you're missing the point. If you become one, that's fantastic. If you become sustainable, and in doing something you love and enjoy, far more important. Because doing something you love and enjoy doing, you're where you want to be. You're doing something, you have an investment in something you actually like. I don't think you can have much better than that, because even people say, oh, well, I'd rather just retire. No, you don't. Retirement can be dangerous. The amount of people I know who become alcoholics or die out of just simply having nothing to do. It's phenomenal. What you need to do is have the freedom of choice. The choice is the important bit. So don't always assume it's about getting rich. Getting rich just means you're going to have bigger problems. Everyone still has problems. It doesn't get any easier. The bigger your money, the bigger the complexities, the bigger the issues. Because the more people that work for you, the more people that rely on you, the more people you're responsible for. It doesn't get easier. The ideal situation for me is to generate a sustainable, regular income where I can fund my life in Spain, I can start traveling more, I can spend more time with the family and pay the bills. Getting rich beyond my wildest dreams? Too much headaches. Now don't get me wrong, being a millionaire these days is not extravagant anyway. I think the biggest density of billionaires is in London these days. But at the same time, I sit there and I go, but when I go around London, something not right with the place. It's too consumer based. Now, I'm not demotivating, by the way. I think it's important just to recognise that sometimes it's better to move into another area. Don't just think about money, because money is not a solution. Money is a promissory note. I will pay the bearer this, as written on the things. It's not the be end and end all. It's like construction. If I could fund doing construction projects, I'm happy. I love all that stuff. It'd be nice doing it for myself and not doing it for others, because then I can. If you got your own income where it's, like I say, sustainable, things tick over, you can do what you want. At the same time, doing something you enjoy. At the same time, you can make more time for yourself. If you got all that in place, you're in the right space. But yeah, it all starts with being able to get out of bed and do something. It starts with going, okay, I don't know what my ideas are or what I'm going to do, but first thing I recommend is, if you ain't got a whiteboard, get yourself a notebook. And you just start writing down, what do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? Where do I want to go? how am I going to make this happen? What ideas have I got to make money? What ideas have I got to improve myself? What do I need to improve my education? What courses do I need to do? Set your life out, because it won't be the definitive be all and end all of where you're going, but it's your outline. It's not a plan, it's an outline. Man plan, God's laugh. It's a phrase that I remember, but the point being is, if you've got no outline, you're not going to get there. Those are your goals. Start setting some of them out. Start thinking, I'm going to do this. My son has a board full of them. I have 3 boards full of them, and that's my 4th one there. This one is predominantly just going to be business stuff. But not everything is about business either. It's about personal development. It's about, sometimes it's not even about personal improvement to the benefit of others. Sometimes it's a benefit to yourselves, because one of the things I know is I've spent a lot of time being a lot more friendly to people, which, not that I was overly negative anyway, but I'm being a lot more approaching a lot more people, because one of the things I noticed, I'll give you an example. So last year, there's a guy that was my technical services manager on my last contract. The company forced him out in a very bad, negative way. Horrible company. But it hit him quite hard from what I could see, because he'd worked for the company for like 14 or 16 years and he hadn't done anything wrong. And I actually explained this to somebody who was independently investigating him later on, because we were chatting about something else and I didn't know he'd done the investigation. And then it was on about how he'd done something, and I says, he didn't do that. I know he didn't do it, because one of the things that he wasn't very good at was computer literacy. And what he was accused of was closing a lot of stuff down, which he wouldn't even know how to access. And it was like, oh, I didn't realise that. I was like, yeah, but that was the 4th attempt the company made to get rid of the guy without him actually doing anything wrong. He's just very abusive and very bad. And it hit the guy really hard, because the thing is, he was dedicated to his job. He was 100% invested in doing things right, and that was half the problem. The company didn't like the fact he was trying to do his job well, because it cuts into profits and the other things in them being able to cover things up. But I'd gone back to the UK, and I thought, I'll give him a ring. I haven't heard from him for a while. I'll give him a ring. So I used to meet up with him for coffees after he sort of resigned from the business. Because you could see they were just going to keep trying to find something and try and pin it on him. And that's just a horrible environment. That's been going on for about at least a year, where they've just been going back with different things. And you're like, Jesus, this is horrible how companies treating the guy. And he'd left, and he'd sort of disappeared for a bit, and I kept messaging him for ages and didn't hear much, and then eventually pinged up and then met him for a coffee, and I was going, we'll meet up, And I regularly would message him, and gone back from the UK because I hadn't seen him for a while. I thought, I'll just see how he's doing. Meet for a coffee. It's like, oh, I'm in hospital. I'm like, oh, okay. Now I know he lives on his own, because his daughter's in Scotland, and he's not married or anything, so he's pretty much alone. So I said, oh, is there anything you need? And he goes, oh, I need like underwear, I need this, and I was like, okay, phone charger. So it ended up like I spent, I think, about 8 hours because it was 5 different shops not in the same areas of towns. So I was just like, yeah, I'll do that for him because the guy's on his own. Went took stuff to him up at the hospital and had a chat, and he'd had too much oxygen in his blood. Or is it? No, he had a low oxygen count in his blood. So he wasn't great. And I said, look, you need anything else, just give us a shout. And then a few days later, he got back out of hospital, and I went and met him for a coffee. And the thing I asked him was, what are you doing for Christmas? Because the thing is, like I said, I knew he lived on his own, and it's like, I'm going up to see my daughter now. Thanks for asking. Okay, great. Knew he was okay. He messaged me on the 28th? I think it was the 28th of December to wish me happy Christmas. He was dead before New Year. Because I messaged him on New Year just to, wish him happy New Year. He'd already died. It's important that you make time for others, because there's two things here. We're in a society where the environment is dictating that people keep apart. Relationships are failing at a high rate. People spend too much time on their own. COVID probably made that even worse, even though it probably feels like it's the opposite. But a lot of people get comfortable being alone. Myself, I know I can spend months alone. I've always been like that, though, to be fair. I could wander off for 6 months. I've work-wise, I've been away from home up to 9 months in a year. But it doesn't mean it's right. And like that situation, for me, it was realising that you have the ability to shape other people's day, because just meeting for a coffee now and again, just to go, hey, how's it going? They may not have spoken to somebody for a few weeks. So, yeah, like I said, not everything is about money, not everything's about business and personal development. Some of it's actually about being a good person. And it may not be for everybody, but I find doing those little things makes a big difference. I had another friend that he'd gone down a path of self-destruction after losing a job, because he'd never been knocked back before, because he's quite can be quite arrogant and whatever, but he's an okay guy. He's just, can be a bit of a idiot sometimes, because he, gets overconfident in positions. But when he got knocked back, that really hit him. In the sense of started drinking, and wasn't really a close friend of mine. I'd just known him for a long time. I just says, hey, why don't you just come out and crash out my sofa for a few weeks and, basically pull yourself together. Now, he didn't take it up, but what he did do is you could see that someone else actually gave a crap, because he wasn't used to somebody reaching out and offering a branch. It's important. Doing that sort of stuff for others may be the thing that puts them back in the right space, because you put value on them. Other people may not. In the way many things are today, society, the industry I'm in is extremely toxic, and they put a false front on it all, but I don't think they do enough to actually even understand what the problems are. What you get is people making decisions on something they don't understand. It's like people talk about well-being and, we've got a policy for this or whatever. It's like, but do you actually engage with the people and actually ask them how they're doing, or what they need, or what their problems are? Because if you don't, it's just patronising. I don't expect people to come to tell me that all their problems, and at the same time, I am there if they want to. At the same time, I will ask, how's your day going? How's the week going? Because although I'm not directly involved in who their relationships are with, have they got kids or anything like that. My interest is in that they're okay. The bigger picture is the bit they're dealing with, their finances, their wife, their kids, divorce, whatever. But being an ear just to say, hey, everything all right, can make a big difference to people. And like I said, even when a lot of people live on their own and stuff, it can make a difference for everyone, That's what I'm sort of saying. Not everything's money. But it all starts with getting motivated. That's why you need to start with getting yourself in the space to move forward. I think it's an important one, because getting in a rut is easy. Getting reasons not to do stuff, that's everywhere. From being on the Xbox, being on the computer, being the rugby, the football, the cricket, the basketball, the bits that are enjoyment. But I get it if you're into it. Because like me, I've started watching the NBA again, because I love basketball. We used to play basketball years ago. But at the same time, I don't make it my priority. I do make it a bit of my escapism, because if I see a game's on, I'll watch it. But I don't book it in. What I do book in is like my current reading list. I've got 3 books at the minute that I need to read in the next 2 weeks. But the point being is, you keep moving it forward. Like I said, at the moment I'm doing Greenlight with Matthew McConaughey, which I'm probably 3/4 of the way through at the minute, which is an audiobook version. But keep not absorbing information, work out how you get yourself moving, and don't put it off till tomorrow. Make the changes. And if you fall into a lull, half the battle is realizing you've done it. There's nothing wrong with going back. It's a bit like if you're fighting some sort of addiction. If you fall back into something, it's fine. The main thing is you recognize it, and you get back up, and you push forward. If you're in debt, same thing. Okay, how do I move forward? Pen and paper with debt. Get a whiteboard, stick the numbers up there. They're going to look horrendous at the start. But then you start to see they're coming down. One of the things I do recommend, my wife does it, I wasn't doing it, but she does it. She'll put a line through the original number and then reduce it below, so you can actually see it's coming down. She works that way, which is a very visual way to say you're improving. One of the things you may want to do, which just think about myself, is you may want to do at the top with, like here I've got my mortgage, where it started this year, and then at the bottom where it ends up. Just leave that number at the top and just keep deducting it, and you can see how much you put in as extra effort. Don't get me wrong, it's going to keep coming down a little bit every month anyway. But I like to see thousands coming off, not hundreds. You're the master of your own journey here. And it's important you recognise that. For me, I'll help anybody. I really will, as long as it don't take up too much of my time. Because I do get some people keep contacting me over and over again. And to be fair, guys on the channel, you ain't any of them, so don't worry. But even then, if it's improving people's lives, I've got the time. Or if I've got the time, I'll make the time. Or if I haven't got the time, I'll make the time. But all I say then is just don't abuse it, because we all have time for stuff. We all got things going on in our lives, but if you fall, get back up. The quicker you get back up, the quicker you're moving forward again. And the next time, you might find you can move a little bit further. Or, like I said, because like with addiction is a bit of a strange one, because you can fall more than once. And you can fall in a lot of failed, you're dwelling on it you're back into reasons not to carry on. Forget it. Go to bed. Tomorrow's another day. It's day zero. Start again. Yesterday's yesterday. Do not sit and loll on it. Same with you have spending sprees or anything else that people get up to. Because I know myself, as I've said before, I love gadgets, but I have not been in debt beyond the mortgage. I'm trying to think. For nearly 20 years. Because I don't have a credit card. But I do understand getting into the debt situation. I do understand that not everything goes your own way. That's why I was talking about destroying my car wheel, the umbrella that's now from there to there, and the pump issues downstairs. They're distractions. Did anybody die? Did anybody get maimed? Did it ruin my day? The answer is no. like the umbrella. It's not made me angry. It's not made me annoyed. All I'm thinking is, how do I reach it from the balcony? Because April will not let me climb out over the roof. Because she's always said no. Because she knows I will do it. Because I've done, well, I do that stuff because she knows I'm always on roofs work-wise. But don't let things move you away from where you need to be. If you get set back, it's a setback. It's minor. It's small. It doesn't mean stop. It means go. It means get up. Don't get weighed down with it. Push up. I've had setbacks. Let's face it. In a very small period of time, my father-in-law died. My mother died. My father died. My brother's recently died. Had the roof ripped off our property in the Philippines. Had to sort it out. We've had the COVID situation that everybody else was dealing with. I've had a health scare. It's not all plain sailing, but I don't let it keep me down. I get back up. And that's what everyone should be doing. Just get back up. As long as you're doing that, you're doing fine, you're doing great, you're moving. That's the important bit. I'll leave it there because it's probably one of my longest videos for a long time. But it was just an important thing I want to say today, that move forward. It's like, if you fall, as long as you're getting back up, you're going forward. Thanks for watching.